Nice.
Okay, here we go.
Eden?
Hi. All right, everyone. So glad to have everybody here for the first Innovative Locations of 2022. I'm really excited to welcome Howard Samuels of Samuels and Company with me. Howard's been a veteran in the industry of entertainment. He's worked with Merlin Entertainment, Andretti, Meow Wolf, iFly, and has had extensive experience as a real estate advisor and providing brokerage services to people in the entertainment space. So I'm really excited to have Howard on with me today. Unfortunately, we did have some technical difficulties, so his video is not working, and we'll be just having a conversation. So, Howard, thanks so much for joining today. I'm excited to talk to you about success in location-based entertainment space, specifically related to site selection. Thanks so much for joining me.
Pleasure to be here, Eden, and thank you for all the work you do. And I appreciate it to Arco Murray to helping the industry kind of understand location-based entertainment and how we can all kind of participate. And you guys have been really terrific in bringing people that are on the forefront, like Zach Shore and Joe from Butchak and others that I think everyone's finding your sessions really, really informative as far as how do we deal with entertainment, what does entertainment retail mean, and look forward to a nice conversation.
Yeah. So let's just jump right in. The name location-based entertainment obviously indicates how important the location part is. And given your extensive experience over 30 years in this space, you know, you've probably become privy to the mistakes that are typical of entrepreneurs who are maybe picking their first location, their first site as they enter entertainment. What are you seeing as like those biggest mistakes, and have you seen them sort of shift over time too? Are there different considerations now than maybe, you know, when you first entered the industry?
Sure. So we've been fortunate. We've been involved in location-based entertainment over 25 years. We've completed over 125 transactions, about 2.5 million square feet. And we focus just on location-based entertainment, mostly tenant representation, a little bit landlord representation. But I think our whole industry, the way it was founded, the way it was developed in the shopping center world for the last 30 or 40 years, the way everyone looks at real estate, first question I want to ask is, what's their sales per square foot? In my mind, for location-based entertainment or for entertainment uses, that's kind of irrelevant on sales per square foot. Number one, you could have an Apple store, you could have Tesla, but beyond that, skewing, sales per square foot, if you're a retailer, is terrific. If you're an entertainment use, you need footfall, you need pedestrian traffic, you need customers. At the end of the day, you need more experience per square foot than sales per square foot. And it's basically, our focus is everything that you can't get on Amazon. So you can buy an awful lot on Amazon, and I'm sure it's going to keep on improving, but at the end of the day, location-based entertainment is basically everything that you can't get online, you can't get on Amazon. We feel there's 5 predominant principles for location-based entertainment. One that I've alluded to already is attendance or footfall. The key for a use, I think a lot of people in our industry, they want to try to fill boxes. Hey, there's Putchak. Hey, there's Taika. Hey, there's Merlin Concepts. There's RSG Group. There's It Sugar we represent now. And the fact is, it's not filling boxes per se. It is leasing, but the entertainment retail has a whole different business model, and everyone in our industry
I think we lost you.
needs to understand. Hello?
Yeah.
Shoot.
No, you're good.
You there? Yeah. And so, for instance, attendance is the most important for location-based entertainment. How many people per year come through the door? Mm-hmm. How many people per year walk by my front door or walk by my space? And really the key for most entertainment uses is what's their attendance after 3 years. Second criteria is price. What is their yield? So what is the charge or approximately where they sell that they have attendance times price? That gets you gross revenue. You divide by the occupancy, and that should lead everybody to say, is this a good use or is it not a good use? Without just saying, well, here's a use and can you just fill this box? The other two criteria is CapEx. It's very, very expensive for entertainment use. And working with somebody like Arco Murray or other good architects, contractors, to keep your costs manageable and you have a good handle on it. And last is the dwell time. How long do people stay in your space? And what's the overall experience, so that at the end of the day, you can really, for people in our industry, they just really need to understand how location-based entertainment works. Why would a location be appropriate? Most location-based entertainment can't go on a second floor, can't go on a third floor. Those are the biggest mistakes. They're not destination. They're more parasitic as far as picking up people, but they do bring people to a project. They'll bring people to a mall. They'll bring people to a strip center, depending on what type of entertainment uses there are. So those are general comments. Attendance, price, occupancy, CapEx, and dwell time are the 5 kind of main principles of really getting a handle on how location-based entertainment. And if you don't analyze that, if you're a broker, if you're a developer, you're a service provider, you really don't understand what location-based entertainment uses are. But we'd obviously be happy to help. And there's a lot of other resources in the industry.
Do you ever see like outliers to, what you just described as being what needs to be factored in? Have you seen any exceptions that have done really well despite maybe, breaking some of those rules?
Sure. One great example, we work with the Taubman Company and Great Lakes Crossing, and we struggled. This is on behalf of Merlin Entertainment, which owns Lakeland Discovery Center, Sea Life Center, and Peppa Pig World of Play. And we struggled in that market trying to understand where's the best place to locate. We went back and forth on a variety of different locations, trying to kind of marry what we thought were those 5 criteria I just described in the right setting with the right landlord. And clearly the Taubman organization's first class and fantastic for sure in the greater Detroit market as well as across the country. And ultimately we put Sea Life Center in an old GameWorks space. It worked really well construction wise and fitting in that space. And to our surprise, it ended up, there's a number of factors we hadn't really thought about as far as leisure activity, people in the greater Detroit market having a willingness to come there. The Taubman Company did a great job of transforming that center into more outlets. So outlets are nice lending to location-based entertainment. Outlet shopping is the same customer that wants to go to location-based entertainment. We subsequently added Lakeland Discovery Center, and then we ultimately added Peppa Pig World of Play. And all 3 did extremely well. Ultimately, they lifted retail sales by 20% in the center, and they lifted food sales, especially the food court, by 30%. So it was a really kind of an interesting example of a landlord that took the time to understand location-based entertainment. We spent a lot of time educating, cross-promotion, cross-marketing, and then the right positioning within the property to make it work.
Yeah. Do you see any specific routes for marketing a location-based entertainment concept that seems to work especially well? I know that signage, having visibility when people are driving by, that's something that's key, but are there other methods that you've seen work really well to draw an audience to a physical space?
Sure. What's most important today in February 24th of 2022, again, our industry needs to rethink how we've been doing things. So as an example, like when you mentioned signage, and many people in our industry, I think if you're older 50 or older, which includes myself, but here's how we've been doing it. Today's customer and tomorrow's and the next 6 months to 2 years, all social media, all through a variety of different platforms, whether it's TikTok or others. Andretti Indoor Karting and Games, that we have the pleasure of representing for the last 5 or 6 years. They have 6 open now. They just opened in Atlanta. We have 4 new deals that are starting to be under construction, and they want to do about 2 a year. And they did phenomenally during the COVID. They exceeded sales of 2019, but they used social media in a huge way. Today's consumer looks at social media and uses their phones and electronics, social media platforms in a huge way. Mm-hmm. And most mall owners, most shopping center owners are older or don't understand it, and they need to work with consumers. We had a funny conversation with somebody in our industry, and he started describing the soliloquy of our industry, where they basically say, the woman looking for a little black dress. And in 30, 40 years in our shopping center world, everyone would talk about the woman looking for a little black dress. And 40, 50 years ago, you'd maybe have somebody would send out a booklet or, a catalog, like the Sears catalog. And then maybe 20 years ago, they sent coupons like Bed Bath or other, TJ Maxx. And then today, what's the difference? They want that little black cocktail dress. They're going to come to my mall, my department store, whatever. And I said to this person who was very conversant with our industry, how old is the lady in your store? And they said, well, I hadn't thought of that. Well, that's the problem. This 55 or 65 or 75-year-old person, clearly maybe that's true. If they're 15 or 25, they're not looking at catalogs or coupons. They're looking at everything that's on social media platforms. Right. And that's how they're communicating with your friends and making reservations for Open Table, et cetera. So to me, I think the marketing, and location-based entertainment users need to challenge themselves to have follow-up digital platforms. Mm-hmm. So when somebody comes to an experience, they go home, is there a way to communicate with them afterwards? Some of them are getting into it. Merlin's doing a fairly good job. RSG Group are the largest health club in the world right now. They bought Gold's Gym. We represent John Reed, Heimat, in the United States, of different sizes. They have a fantastic social media platform. Mm-hmm. And the only way you can join their health club is to walk in through the platform. There's no salespeople. There's no credit cards. You either use the platform to get in, or you can't exercise.
Do you mean like an app? Is that how it functions?
Correct. Okay. It's all through an app, mm-hmm. and they're communicating completely through their app. So, but that's who their customer engages, is through their app. Mm-hmm. So I think at the end of the day, it's really important for marketing to use social media platforms.
Yeah, we see a lot of Instagram friendly backdrops that are being incorporated into the design of these spaces, and that seems to be right in line with what you're talking about, creating moments that people want to actually capture as their social media presence, and taking pictures with their friends in front of a cool wall, or if the space itself already is cool, then it already makes people more prone to taking photos that end up on social media, which then is sort of an organic channel.
Correct. It lends itself very naturally to that. But the other part for our audience, most shopping centers, whether it's a mall, strip center, don't think about corporate events. What is corporate event? Well, is that Arco Murray has a holiday party? Well, that's one corporate event. If an 8-year-old or 10-year-old has a birthday party, it's another corporate event. If a bunch of ladies want to get together and have drinks, somewhere, that's another corporate event. Corporate events, i.e., again, something do on Amazon, is a huge way as a shopping center, as the individual uses, to generate big revenue and big profit margins. And it's a secret sauce for Topgolf, iFly. We represented iFly for 5 years and did about 40 locations nationwide. Corporate events is a huge part of retail landscape that most retail companies and shopping center owners don't really embrace. What do you mean corporate event? I mean, you package a mall for corporate events. If you have a theater, you've got It's Sugar, you've got, 2 or 3 other, bowling, we represent Bolero in Los Angeles. You have Meow Wolf as part of Area 15. I'd recommend everybody that's listening go to Area 15 in Las Vegas. And the other one's Winston Fisher, I think, has his hand on the pulse of the future of immersive art, which is a whole new category. And we've been fortunate to work with Meow Wolf for the last year and a half, looking at sites across the country. They're very specific as far as size, scale, and ceiling heights. I'm assuming most people on this are listening have gone to Van Gogh. But immersive art experience like Art Tech House, I have a lot of friends there. That's the future of people interacting and looking at ways to use their real estate to have fun, make people smile, and get people to come to their properties. Could they sell other products and have other retail amenities? In effect, almost flipping. Somebody told me the other day, typical mall is 75% retail and maybe 25%, movie theater entertainment. Now it's, the flip. It's maybe 25% retail and 75% variety of entertainment uses. But most malls, most shopping centers are also retail centers. They're convenient. They're easy to get in and out. Customers understand the pattern. So it's our industry needs to evolve into understanding these different concepts and then saying, is this the right place for them? And answering their own question, as opposed to most landlords and owners and brokers, well, I need, $3 a square foot on the West Coast or 36 on the East Coast. And forget what you need for your pro forma. What do you think that use can pay? What's their occupancy percentage that they'll still make money and you'll make money? And if, most people aren't willing to think through that, comes a lot of difficult conversations that aren't as productive as they possibly could.
That's interesting. So you're saying, look at it more holistically, look at the deal more holistically than
Correct.
being so fixated on just certain numbers. It's interesting that you brought up Meow Wolf, because I think it'd be really interesting to hear a little bit more about how you pick locations. I mean, Las Vegas seems like an obvious choice, because it's a place that people like to go to for exciting experiences, and it draws a crowd there. But I believe Meow Wolf is also in Denver, and they started in
Santa Fe.
That's it, Santa Fe, which really wasn't a location that drew maybe a lot of foot traffic before, and they still blew up. And I'd be interested to hear a little bit about your own experience with Meow Wolf, picking new sites, what's being considered, especially since their first location was so successful in a place that maybe, off the bat you wouldn't have chosen, or it wouldn't have made immediate sense why it would have been a great first location.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I'd recommend everyone that's listening try to visit Meow Wolf, try to learn their business model. Happy to help people, learn more about it. It started as effectively an art collective, and basically fabulous artists, really in the true sense of artists that wanted to express themselves, etc. And didn't find a venue or forum for them to do that. And fortunately in Santa Fe, where they worked on trying to create some kind of place that they could express themselves, and then got George Martin to finance and take over a bowling alley, and ultimately create the first Meow Wolf. It's the House of Eternal Return, where it's a house from, let's say, in Mendocino or Northern California or somewhere, that you kind of walk through and you follow a family and their exploration and ideas, and you open the refrigerator door and you walk into a fabulous immersive environment. So you go from reality to kind of suspended or different realities of how you look at art. You open a door to a washing or drying machine and slide down a slide to another fabulous immersive art experience. So, at the end of the day, they realized they had something. Santa Fe is a fabulous community, 70,000 people, but maybe in the whole state, 3 million. But, it does attract a lot of, they attract 3 million of people coming to Santa Fe. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so it ended up working quite well. When they looked at a place like Las Vegas, part of it was they needed a landlord that really understood them. And Winston Fisher spent time and energy in getting to know Vince and the founders very, very well. And he effectively incorporated and integrated them into his overall project to make sure they're successful and he's successful. That's how a developer or owner creates successful location-based entertainment. And they opened in February of last year. They did phenomenally well. And it's been a pleasure working with Winston and his team because they sponsor day in and day out so many different events. They use their whole Area 15 as an extension of kind of immersive art brands. They're opening a Luminarium, I think, shortly. They opened Aero Bar, which is a fabulous bar up in the air. They have Lost Spirits, which is a terrific whiskey place. So that's how Las Vegas came about, kind of uniquely. In a lot of uses, we represent Butterfly Wonderland. We've looked in Las Vegas, and Butterfly Wonderland, I think we did great there. Do you go on the Strip in a casino that just wants to draw people in to play their slot machines, or do you go into some place that really celebrates the idea of creativity, imagination, and immersive art? And Area 15 has done that. In Denver, there's a creative opportunity between some highways that basically kind of creativity between Meow Wolf and the Landlord, Stan Kroenke, the owner of the Super Bowl champion Rams. And they created a building out of almost air, if you will, and created a fabulous convergence station. It's about 90,000 square feet. It's really, really unique and really different in kind of the heart of Denver. The location-based entertainment criteria, we're looking at obviously usually larger markets or mid-sized markets that also have good art and art presence and artists that live there and breathe and are real artists. And secondly, have a big tourism factor because tourism gives you unique visits. It's real important for the audience to understand the difference between unique visits versus repeat visits. Mm-hmm. Some properties where people will say, well, we get 15 million people, we get 18 million people, we get 7 million. And, one, depends on how they calculated that. But number two, what's the difference? I was fortunate to stand outside of Mall America with Mel Simon once, a long time ago. And he said, Howard, Mall America gets 40 million people. I said, is that 4 million people 10 times a day or 10 million people 4 times? So he looked at me and said, what's the difference? I said, if I'm a retailer, I want 4 million people coming back 10 times because sooner or later in a year, I'll sell them a good. Mm-hmm. If I'm a location-based entertainment, I want 10 million people coming 4 times, so that it's unique visits. That's what I need for my pro forma. So Mel, in his own way, looked at me and said, how the hell do I know? It's just a lot of people, which is appropriate. It's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But understanding unique visits versus repeat for property owners that deal with location-based entertainment, even if it's an It's Sugar of 3,000 square feet and it's unique and different, that'll bring unique customers to your property. Mm-hmm. And it changes the dynamics of just a repeat visit versus unique visit. And, again, just like social media, I think people in our industry need to understand today's customer and tomorrow's customer beyond this is the way we always did it. And look at how do you create that?
Yeah, going back to the point of repeat visits versus unique, it does seem like maybe I misunderstood, but it does seem like, from speaking with other end users who are in the entertainment space, the repeat visit piece is quite important to the entertainment space. And there's often the question of, well, how do we create an experience? You have Meow Wolf, which is kind of at the far end of a really unusual and story-driven visit, but then you ask the question, once you do it once, are people likely to come back? And it seems like most entrepreneurs or just business owners in this space do want that repeat visit, and they're trying to figure out how you continue novelty. How do you bring novelty to each visit without having to completely recreate the wheel? How do you scale when you're working in an industry that's the appeal is often the novelty, right? And then once somebody just comes once, maybe they see it and they feel like they've had their fill of the
Correct.
Experience. Are you seeing
it's an excellent question about repeat visits.
Yeah, how do you balance?
It's really important for location-based entertainment operators. How do they deal with repeat?
Mm-hmm.
Meow Wolf has, so many different things that you can't do in one visit. So we hope on behalf of Meow Wolf that if people come and go, and it's been 3 or 4 hours, they'll still come back because they haven't solved some of the puzzle, they haven't followed the families, they haven't followed the guests,
Mm-hmm.
and they still want to complete it. It depends on the age of the consumer again, if it's 15 or 18-year-old versus 35-year-old. It's also, Meow Wolf as an example, for grandparents, families, it's still a fun thing to do, even if you're just sitting in an immersive setting like the Painted Desert in Las Vegas, which is gorgeous, or you're looking at one of our fabulous artists that has these fantastic room of just Claudia Bono is a phenomenal experience of just art that frankly one visit's not enough to really appreciate the beauty. But the point is, if they do birthday parties, they do corporate events, they do other things and work with the owner to promote that. That's another way to kind of use this large type of use to get people to come back.
Mm-hmm.
That is clearly one of the red flags of location-based entertainment is how do you get repeat visits? How many repeat visits are in your model? But most importantly, and you touched on a huge aspect of location-based entertainment that I guarantee you most of the people listening and most people in our industry don't think about. The fundamentals of commercial real estate is you negotiate a lease and the rent is blank dollars for 5 years, then it goes up every 5 years, it goes up every year, or whatever the parties negotiate. And I want to use this opportunity just to throw a question out to the industry. Why? Why is that? Well, because prices go up or inflation, which maybe they do or don't, and maybe the operator can charge more. But a location-based entertainment concept, in order for it to be successful, 5 or 10 years, has to reinvest every 3 years, and every 5 years, $2 million. Mm-hmm. So just when they start getting tired of the toy syndrome, or just when everyone's done it once or twice or 3 times, now their rent starts going up just because our industry has said, rents have to go up. I'm a big believer in percentage rent. I'm a big believer in a partnership between an owner, a landlord, and a tenant. And if they work together, they can do better. And you can monetize percentage rent. You can make it into a fixed number in year 6 after you've spent new capital to keep it going. But just to get to a bank loan and just to say, here's our rents and here's everything just keeps on going up, given the world's experience right now and other things going on, the rents always keep on going up. 2 years ago under COVID, rents evaporated. So there's a fundamental disconnect in our industry between the way we typically have done things and the way location-based entertainment needs real estate as a stage to have their actors perform. Mm-hmm. And they're both almost at opposite sides of the ring. And the key we try to do as advisors and brokers development services is we try to find the middle ground of how do we work together to get 2 + 2 making 5.
When you say
And that's the issue.
for those who aren't familiar with that model, and that would include myself, the percentage description that you just gave, do you mean like you would pay a percentage of the revenue that's coming in from the concept to the landlord?
Correct.
Okay. And do you find that most...
percentage rent is a very commonly used phrase in sales, with revenue, with retail. As all people use that. Mm-hmm. The significant issue, Eden, for a lot of people on the phone, on this call, they will say, well, if you're paying percentage rent, you're doing great. I can't finance it because it's not fixed. And every year it could go up, it could go down. Mm-hmm. And they're correct. But you could take year 3, you could take year 5, year 6 after they spend CapEx. You can negotiate 50% of that percentage rent you're now paying, 65%, 75%. Now can be fixed because now you've got kind of a proven model.
Yeah.
Now, both parties, the landlord tenant, know, in year 6, after I spent $2-3 million, I'm still attracting 300,000 people at $20 a head, and I can afford to pay you this or afford to pay you that. That's a true partnership. Mm-hmm. And that's a long-term success. With Merlin Entertainment, which we've had the pleasure and privilege of representing for 15 years now, our first Lakeland Discovery Center was in Chicago, in Schaumburg. It opened in 2009. So it's been open for 13 years, doing almost consistently the same number. A little bit of growth, more growth in revenues than attendance numbers, been pretty steady attendance. But Andretti has done comp stores increases per year, year over year. So it's really just understanding each business and understanding their business model and saying, can we work together, as opposed to, well, this is the way we always did it, mm-hmm. and our bank needs it and our partner needs it, and you got to pay rental increases every 5 years. That is the death knell for location-based entertainment. People have to do it, so you negotiate it, and unfortunately, it's a difficult issue, but I try to get both parties to sit around a round table and try to look at each other and understand each other and say, can we make this work for everybody?
So it probably takes a specific kind of landlord also, like that's a big part. It's not just about finding a site, but finding a landlord who's willing and able to spend the time to understand the business proposition and then consider other angles of how to structure the deal.
Correct. It's a very astute perception, Eden. The REITs and the larger ones get it. They don't want to acknowledge it, but they understand it. Some mid-sized sometimes get it. But we've worked with small property owners, with families that own property. And some will take the time to really understand it. Some, again, think old-fashioned. Bolero, which is a fabulous client, went public. The best bowling concept, all pure bowling in the United States. And one landlord, bowling is out in secondary centers and they can't pay rents, and doesn't even understand how Bolero operates, the number of lanes, why it's important. So, it gets really hard. Here's my rent, I just need this, and okay. And so again, but I keep on trying, I keep on believing, have a cup of coffee, break some bread, figure out ways to sit down, and if you like this use, and it's a fabulous use in your building. And we typically work with very well funded or well-heeled capital location-based entertainment, because it has legs to it. So that affects your cap rate once you're built out, once you're done. Mm-hmm. And if you have a steady client, a really good client, they'll be there 3 years, 5 years. If you're just flipping real estate, it's a different story. It's harder to kind of make location-based entertainment if you're just flipping something. Mm-hmm. You can do it. You just have to be more honest of what your ultimate goal is, and then try to say, is there a way we can make something work or not? So
yeah. So another question that I've been wanting to ask is, there's a decision that you have to make when you start a new concept. Is it going to be ground up, or is it going to be, you're leasing in an existing space How do you decide between the two? What are the considerations that should come to mind when somebody asks that question for their own business?
Sure. And that's another excellent question. Ground up construction, as everybody on this call knows, it's very, very expensive and gotten maybe even more with supply chain issues. And hopefully it'll settle out or get more predictable. But it's very difficult to have new construction and have a pro forma or a transaction that works for location-based entertainment. The only way it'll work with no factor for land, no factor for site improvements. So if it's just the new construction, it's 150, 200 bucks a foot, 20 bucks gross rent, or 25, 30, maybe you have a chance of making it work. It's much better and much higher percentage, 80, 90%, to reuse existing space with a landlord that's willing to still invest CapEx in their vanilla shell. Maybe they wrote down part of it, because it's second or third generation, to make it fit their specific requirements. Meow Wolf needs 25 to 30 foot ceiling heights. Illuminarium needs 30 feet. Most immersive art things need 30 feet. There are not many buildings that are 30 feet tall. So Brookfield, which is creative, raised the roof in their Kidzania building and did an interesting transaction with Sony Studios. But so you really need to understand that concept and invest capital on existing second or third generation space, and then effectively work with the tenant. The CapEx for most location-based entertainment is $200-300 a square foot or more. Sometimes it'd be $500 a square foot. Sometimes it'd be $1,000 a square foot. So number one, who pays for that? Some tenants will pay the lion's share. Merlin typically pays at least 3/4 of it, or 2/3. Some want the landlord to give a normal allowance, which would be $100 for a restaurant per square foot. So maybe it's $150-200 a square foot for location-based entertainment. But then they're going to have to underwrite the attendance, the revenue. Can he afford to pay me my rent that's with this amortized tenant improvement allowance? So one way or the other, a landlord and a broker have to understand the business model for location-based entertainment. I had an old friend a couple of years ago, who saw me and, Howard, can you help me in Phoenix with a jumping jack? One of those little jumping kind of attractions. And he, told me the economics of his deal. I said, they'll be out of business in 3 years. And his mouth almost fell off. He's like, why? And I walked him through the model. But they're paying me this. I said, yeah, but 3 years from now, because some of the more basic, less CapEx, simpler mini golf, jumping, things, they'll do 200,000 people, 150. You have tired of the toy syndrome very fast. Kids go to parties, go once or twice. That's about it. So year 3, year 4, year 5, you'll be static attendance or dropping. And you're going to get the space back. Now, if you underwrote it for a 5-year lease, okay, got you through 5 years and you'll figure it out then, that's okay, that works. But it's just being realistic of what they can do in volume and attendance. And the key for most people that I would recommend is when you meet the principals and go visit them. It's mind-boggling how many people I've met in our industry. Legoland Discovery Center, I think we have 12 to 14 now in the United States. We have 9 or 10 Sea Life. Some people have never been to them, and they want to do transactions. Hey, can I put a Legoland here? Have you been to one? That's like, it's not that hard, and now COVID's hopefully subsiding, but go visit it, underwrite it yourself, get a handle. Yeah, I think this would do great, and here's why. Okay, let me take a next step. So we've played a lot of translating in our industry of how does Zach Shore's business work, and how does he make money with Tika? How does Putt Shack? Putt Shack is great, but is it a bar? Is it golfing? What's it stabilized year 3? And most people in our industry they look at me like I've got three eyes. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's like, okay, good luck, because if you have a bar, restaurant, okay, you can underwrite that. But if is he going to keep it fresh? Is he going to keep it different? If there's competition, what's it going to look like 3 years if you're a long-term hold?
Right.
And also the other thing I'd add even is on the physical layout, new construction versus reuse. A large conversation the other day, had a project and they're doing a 2-story this and 2-story that. Having 2-story spaces can work for attractions, but tricky, very tricky. And you need to really think through how the 2 stories will flow. What's the overall experience? What's the dwell time? How they get in, how they get out? Will it work? And and think it through and see their other operations and say, you did it here, you did it there. I think it can work. Most location-based would prefer 1-story, but given their economic challenges to keep the rents nominal and percentage rent to share, okay, I'll go to the second floor. Okay, I'll go to a basement, but I need ceiling heights of 18 feet or 20. I need signage, as you said. I need easy access. I need to do this. So, people need to think through it as far as the overall experience, rather than here's a space. Can you fill it? Because oftentimes I'll say to most landlords, you probably know the answer yourself, but I'm happy to walk you through it, just to give you a sense of how their numbers will reflect.
We are coming up kind of at the 45-minute point here, so I'm going to ask just one more question, and that's going to be around which entertainment concept you've worked with that you see as a strong example in site selection success, and what do you think makes them that outstanding example?
It's a good question, and we're fortunate because we have some really, really good clients, and we think most of them are really good. I'd say currently, Andretti Indoor Karting and Games has done a great job of picking great markets, great communities. Because of COVID, they've been in really great states that worked with them rather than some other states that were more challenging. Merlin has been fantastic. We've been, like I said, fortunate. I think Merlin's has closed one attraction recently because of COVID, but of the 36 deals we did for Merlin nationwide, they're all open and operating. Merlin has 130 attractions in 25 countries on 4 continents. So they really drill down discipline in site-based, location-based entertainment. Merlin takes mostly second-generation space that reuses it. Andretti is new construction. They need 6 acres. So it's a good example of the 2 different ways of looking at real estate. And I'd say they both are extremely profitable, successful, and long-term, very, very successful. Madame Tussauds, which dates back to the French Revolution, but has been in London since 1884. There's now 24 Madame Tussauds worldwide, and very, very sustainable. So, to me, as new concepts come about, I think the lessons learned of the existing concepts is, and if anybody that's listening wants to put location-based entertainment, I'd be happy through Eden to, answer any questions, respond to anybody of ways that we look at stuff, the way we underwrite. The biggest also thing I'd like to bring across, Eden, is location-based entertainment's different in so many ways in the shopping center world or the retail industry from what we've seen before with regard to chains. Even with Merlin, they're not going to do 50 or 100. They're not going to go to town and do 5. They're going to do 1. Andretti's going to do 1. So most location-based entertainment are very precious, they're very capital expensive, and they're very unique. And if you want to work with location-based entertainment, even a small concept like Get Sugar, you need to really get to know the principles, the operation, and then like Get Sugar's got 4 to 5 in each market, from 0 to 5,000 feet, 5 to 10, and they recently opened 2 signature stores. They call them Sugar Daddy internally, but one in American Dream of 25,000 feet, and one with Brookfield in Ala Moana at 18,000, and they're doing phenomenally well. Basically a department store of candy. But you need to know Jeff Rubin, who is very accessible, who's the founder, creator. He loves a department store for candy. He gets, various brands. Brands and IP, intellectual property, are huge. And I would recommend for anybody out there that when you do location-based entertainment, think through the IP, the intellectual property. What is this brand? What's unique about it? Because again, that'll get unique uses. And if they have good management, good capital behind them for growth, a sound business plan that you think then fits with whatever you're involved in, okay, there's a good chance this could complement other environments. But it's not, they're not going to do a ton of transactions. And everybody kind of needs to understand that pace of how these location-based entertainment grow.
That's great. Well, Howard, I really appreciate your time, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. I feel like there's so much more that we could say on this topic, and I know that you and I are going to see each other in a couple weeks here at AAA in LA, and hopefully some other people listening will be there as well. But yeah, if anybody has further questions, feel free to reach out, and I can put you in touch with Howard. And
and I would echo that. Hopefully, whoever's listening, whatever, can come to the Entertainment Evolution conference that Jerry France puts on March 17th and 18th at LA Live, because he puts together great, panels. We're doing one on immersive art, but he puts together great panels and presenters and people in the audience that are all focused on entertainment. And the last thing I'd add is, when you see a site plan that says entertainment, well, what is that entertainment? What's that use? EE conference or Arco Murray or other resources, ways to say, could I put a putting concept here? What do I need layout-wise, square footage, weight loads? Okay, so you can get a quick jump on how do you lay out something and plan something that makes sense and, get you from here to there as quickly as possible. And I really want to thank you, Eden, and Arco Murray. You guys are leading the way, I think, in understanding this sector of the industry. Happy to come back at some point or even do other question and answers when appropriate.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Howard. Appreciate your time again. Have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thanks. Take care, everybody.